Estey Organ Company, Advertising, Part 2 of 2. Can children play a free reed organ? Did this room really exist? What is Saint Cecilia doing on an organ advertising card? Who are all these people? That, and much more, you can learn in this video. Part 1. The origins of the Estey Organ Company, first advertising. In 1846, Samuel H. Jones and Joseph L. Jones built free reed organs in a small mill in Brattleboro, Vermont. The Jones brothers built lap melodeons, also called melodeon, rocking melodeon, elbow organ, or lap organ. The ownership and location of this small organ manufacturer changed several times, until Jacob Estey joined the company as a partner in 1852. In addition to lap organs, improved and then perfect melodeon were also built since 1852. Jacob Estey had also changing partners in the early years, and in 1863, the first Estey cottage organ was developed. Up to this point, Estey and its forerunner companies' advertising was mostly done in newspapers. Part 2. First Estey Catalogue and Advertising Cards. From 1867 onwards, a free reed organ catalog was published by the J. Estey and Company. The Estey Organ Catalog was then updated about every 2 years. The Estey catalog organs could be ordered anywhere in the United States by using a telegraph code. In addition to newspaper advertising and catalogs, there were also artfully designed special advertising cards. This Estey advertising card from 1869 shows the Estey factory buildings in Brattleboro and a selection of free reed organs from the 1867 and 1869 catalog. A similar advertising card from the same period comes from Mason and Hamlin, free reed organ builders in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. My 3D model replicas of these inspiring cards. This special advertising card was named the Estey Orchestra Club. You can see that the child cannot reach the pedals. A free reed organ does not produce any sound without pressing the foot pedals, which is why young children were unable to play it because of their physical size. But Estey and Mason and Hamlin later also built customized organ models that could be played by young children as well. I found this photo from the 1890s in the USA on Vintage Everyday. It looks as if these children were asked to imitate the advertising card. This illustration of a woman playing an Estey phonorium is charming and colorful. A woman playing a free reed organ was one of the most popular advertising motifs in the USA during the second half of the 19th century. The cards showed women playing alone, for friends, for the family, for the children, or for their husband or friend. Very rarely can you find old advertising cards where a man is playing a free reed organ for a woman. Free reed organs were portrayed as the center of the family entertainment, mostly played by women or girls. But this was not just a marketing ploy. In an era before there were gramophones, or radio, these instruments brought music and culture into the private homes. As a result of industrial mass production, even families who were not wealthy could now buy a free reed organ for an affordable price. Even in the most rural parts of the USA, these instruments were the pride of a family, a sign of cultural self-determination. Part 3. Special advertising cards. In contrast, these two Estey advertising cards show much more than just an instrument, factories, or family life. These two cards tell probably a much bigger story. I have categorized the cards into Estey Small Parlor Room, a social gathering, and Estey Large Parlor Room, musical afternoon. The two scenes are very similarly composed. But let's look at the cards, one by one. The Estey Large Parlor Room, musical afternoon. Part 4. Estey Large Parlor Room, a musical afternoon. Individuals. Let's start with the pictures on the wall. This image shows Saint Cecilia playing a pipe organ. Saint Cecilia lived in Trastevere in Rome in the 2nd to 3rd century CE, and is known as the patron saint of music in the Christian faith. Her feast day is celebrated on November 22nd. According to her legend, Cecilia was a martyr who died for her faith. In her martyrdom, it is said that Cecilia sang to God in her heart while she was married against her will. Cantantibus Organis. Due to faulty translation and misinterpretation, Cecilia's singing in her heart, Organis, became Cecilia playing the organ, and was since then wrongly labeled as an organ player. That is, Why Raphael painted Saint Cecilia in the 16th century, in Europe, iconically holding a portative organ in her hand. The ecstasy of Saint Cecilia. Inspired by Raphael's painting. In the 16th to 17th century, Cecilia was already playing somewhat bigger organs in the visual arts. This misleading portrayal of Saint Cecilia also spread in the USA. And so, Saint Cecilia finally found her way onto an advertising card for the Estey Organ Company in Brattleboro, Vermont, USA, as an organist and patron of music. Although she never played any instrument or was a singer. Learn more about Saint Cecilia in my YouTube playlist. This portrait shows Jacob Estey, founder of J. Estey and Company, and its successor, Estey Organ Company. Jacob Estey was married to Desdemona Wood, with whom he had 3 children. It is not known whether Jacob Estey was still alive, died 1890, when this advertising card was designed, but we will try to find out. Next, we see the organist. The organ shown here is a Style 900 organ, first appeared in Estey Catalogues in the 1880s. Which allows to classify the advertising card more precisely. A portrait can also be seen at the top of the organ. The portrait shows probably Ludwig van Beethoven, German composer and pianist. The inscription on the open music book reads, Estey, Organ, Method. The Estey Organ Method was an exercise book for free-read organs, originally published in 1882. This woman, in the yellow dress, is standing behind the organist, and may be holding a sheet of music for singing. Unfortunately, I couldn't identify the bust in the background, it's a little too unclear and blurry. Maybe you have an idea? Two women, sitting in a chair, enjoying the music. Two elegantly dressed men, with understated gestures, standing in the background. And finally, a girl and a boy standing at an open balcony, or patio door. The little girl points up, or downwards, to the Estey Organ Factory, in the background. Part 5. Estey Large Parlor Room, Family Members. Which is summary, 2 men, 4 women, and 2 children. The year is 1882, or later. All these people could maybe representing Estey family members. And if that were the case, who would be who? The 2 men could represent Jacob Estey's son Julius Jacob, and his son-in-law, Levi Knight Fuller. 2 of the 4 women could represent Julius' wife, Florence Carpenter Gray, and Levi's wife, Abby Emily Estey. The other 2 women could be sisters of Florence Carpenter Gray or Levi Knight Fuller. Levi Knight and Abby Emily Fuller. Julius Jacob and Florence Carpenter Gray. I tried to assign the Estey family members to the people in the drawing. Still changeable. The 2 children could also be from the Estey family. The boy could be a son of Julius Jacob Estey and Florence Carpenter. Jacob Gray or Julius Harry. If the painting was done in the 1890s, it could also be Guy Carpenter. The girl could be the adopted daughter of Abby Emily and Levi Knight Fuller, Anna Maud. So, if this advertising card represents Estey family life, a large part of Estey family members could be represented. There is no official assignment of Estey family members to this advertising card. The assignment is my personal idea, based on my research into the history of Jacob Estey. Part 6. Free reed organ manufacturers, advertising cards. Very similar drawings of a family crowding around a free reed organ were also used by other organ manufacturers for advertising cards. These cards also show a factory in the background, visible from a window, balcony, or terrace. The Packard Company's advertising card also features a picture of George Washington, the first President of the United States of America, and a bust of Theodore Roosevelt, 26th President of the United States. All of these cards were very similar and used similar stylistic elements. But, did all these rooms really exist? Part 7. Estey Large Parlor Room, Location. Let's take a look at where the Estey Large Parlor Room would have been located, if it really existed. The room's furnishings suggest a wealthy home. The room is probably in a house, with a terrace covered by an awning. The location would of course be Brattleboro, Vermont, USA. The angel view from the window to the factory limit the possible location. The little girl is pointing slightly upwards. But it looks more like you're looking down at the factory. You can see the roofs from above, which would give us, roughly, this viewpoint in Brattleboro, Vermont. And what limits the viewpoint to this area? I searched for a matching spot in this area on Google Street View, but did not find what I was looking for. Probably old maps will help with the search. Brattleboro map, 1876. The Estey factory can be seen on a plateau above. This should be the area from which you can see the factory, as shown on the card. If the house ever existed, it should have been located in this area. The Jacob Estey residence is also within the viewpoint focus line. Let's check this out in 3D. Estey, Organ Factory, Burge Street, built 1869 to 1873. Marked viewpoint. Factory view from the Jacob Estey residence. Even if you look up to the factory, this spot would roughly fit too. Jacob and Desdemona Estey, residence. But Jacob Estey, the founder of the Estey Organ Company, was known for his modesty. Therefore, it is unlikely that he had such an opulent room in his house on Canal Street. So the house, with this room, if it ever existed, was located in Brattleboro, in the green-marked area, to the left of the factory, near Jacob Estey's residence. Part 8. Estey large parlor room, location, speculation. Actually, I was happy with this explanation, but when I came across the house of Julius Jacob Estey, during my research, I discovered an interesting similarity between the Estey Great Parlor Room advertising card and Julius Jacob's house in Brattleboro. It looks like this house had the same awning as the one shown on the advertising card. But this house was located on the other side of the Whetstone Brook stream. Unfortunately, the awning was on the wrong side of the building. But the distance, the framing, and the proportions of the factory would also fit from this perspective. So I looked for the other side of the building. But, even after research and creating a 3D model of the house, I couldn't find an awning on this side of the house. Number 3 is the only clear view I could find of this side of the house. However, that doesn't mean this side couldn't have looked different at some point in the history. So, I freely rebuilt the house, as if the terrace with the awning from the advertising card would have been located here. Which offers a surprisingly similar view to the factory. but still would be the wrong angle. Even if this room did not exist in this house would be a perfect match for this room. Probably, the artist have just combined existing images from the Estey organ factory with images from a Estey residence living room. The illustration of 9 factory buildings, instead of 8, also points to the fact that the painter probably never visited Brattleboro himself. This would explain the different perspectives. This Estey advertising card shows a similar room, and includes the same mistake of showing 9 factory buildings instead of 8. May have been painted by the same artist. Part 9. Estey small parlor room, individuals. Now let's take a look at the Estey small parlor room. This advertising card is dated around 1888 to 1890s. Estey large parlor room, dated around 1882 to 1890. First, let's take a look at all the people. 3 men, 5 women, and 1 boy can be seen. A man is playing the organ. 2 men are standing in the background. The woman in the white dress is standing at the entrance. Listen to the music. The woman in the red dress is talking to a man. The 3 women in the room are listening to the music. And the boy is standing behind the woman in the purple dress. But is this really just an advertising card, or does this card maybe also represent a Estey family meeting? And who is who, if these people would represent Estey's family members? For the 2 men in the large parlor room scene, we found a possible match with Julius Jacob Estey and Levi Knight Fuller. These 2 could also match here with a new beard style from the Estey organ Catalogue of 1876. Abby Emily Estey and Florence Carpenter Gray, their wives, would also match 2 of these 5 woman characters. And I may have found a source that could lead to the other 4 missing adults. In 1892, a big celebration was held in Brattleboro, Vermont, in honor of the Estey Organ Company, which had built its 250,000th free reed organ. These celebrations were also reported in the newspapers of 1892. One of the newspapers includes a list of guests of honor who participated in the ceremonies. Five women are listed with their dresses. Even if not all of the dresses can be matched exactly, the 5 women described would still fit the 5 women on the advertising card. Mrs. J. Estey represents Florence Carpenter Gray, the wife of Julius Jacob Estey. Mrs. Fuller represents Abby Emily Estey, wife of Levi Knight Fuller. Mrs. Cobb is the sister of Florence Carpenter Gray. Mrs. Peabody of Ipswich is probably a well-known member of the family. And Miss Maud Essex represents Anna Maud Essex, adopted daughter of Levi Knight Fuller and Abby Emily Estey. With this guest of honor list from the 1892 celebrations, all adults could be assigned to one person from the Estey small room advertising card. The boy could represent Guy Carpenter Estey, son of Julius Jacob Estey and Florence Carpenter Gray. Please note that this is all subject to interpretation. These are just my assumptions, based on my research into the history of Jacob Estey. There is no official classification of these 2 advertising cards, linking the people to members of the Estey family. Part 10. Estey Small Parlor Room, Details. But not only the people, but also the interior design, suggests that this probably was a real Estey living room. And if, where could this room have been? Hints to the room location. There are 3 pictures in the room. The image on the relay, maybe a landscape painting, does not offer any information about the location of this room. This portrait probably shows Ludwig van Beethoven. The picture on the wall shows the Estey Organ Factory on Burge Street in Brattleboro, correctly, with 8 main buildings. On the table, you can see an open book, showing schematic a free reed organ. Probably a hint to a Estey organ catalog. An open music book can be seen on the organ. I couldn't identify the flute-playing statue. It might be a famous flute player. Maybe you have an idea? Or it might represent the biblical Kinnear or Yugav player, Jubal, who is considered the father of music in the Christian faith. There are probably 3 carved angels portrayed on the organ. This could be a reference to Saint Cecilia, who is often painted in visual art, playing the organ together, or for angels. The organ is an Estey style 900 free reed organ. This organ was featured on almost all the covers of the 1880s Estey organ catalogues. There's a grandfather clock in the stairwell, probably, to give a time reference, but, unfortunately for me, too blurry to read the exact time. All these little details still don't give any hint about the location of the room. My interpretation of the Estey small parlor room, a social gathering, advertising card. Part 11. Estey small and large parlor room, similarities. Ludwig van Beethoven, St. Cecilia, the Estey organ factory, or the Estey style 900 organ, are references that can be found on both cards. Also, the individuals could be assigned to Estey family members on both cards. Although, the same people on the large parlor room card are probably 5 to 10 years younger. The biggest difference between the two cards, apart from the locations and the age of the individuals, is the daytime. The large parlor scene represents a morning or afternoon scene, while the small parlor room scene represents an early evening or nighttime scene. Part 12. Estey small parlor room, location. The lighting in the small parlor room is especially noticeable, which may give us the final hint to the location of this room. 3 different lamp styles can be seen: a table lamp, a ceiling lamp, and a railing lamp. These were oil, gas, or even electric lamps. Let's find out. In 1869, Brattleboro had the Brattleboro Gas Light Company, which supplied the town center with gas via underground pipes. The gas pipeline system reached residential buildings, business buildings, and streetlights that illuminate the city at night. A 1867 drawing of an early Estey factory at Main Street Bridge show a gas street lamp. Electric light was first introduced to Brattleboro in 1886. The first light bulb was installed in a shop on Main Street. In 1887, the first electric streetlights were installed. But it took several more years for electric light to become widespread in Brattleboro. So there existed a gas street lamp near the old Estey factory since at least 1867. Old drawings of the Florence Terrace, home of Julius Jacob Estey and Florence Carpenter Gray, also show a street lamp. This house was probably already the inspiration, or location, for the large parlor room, advertising card scene. There are no lamps, chandeliers, or lanterns shown on this advertising card. Another gas street lamp can be found at the residence of Jacob Estey, the father of Julius Jacob. Residence of Jacob and Desdemona Estey. An old drawing shows a street lamp in front of this house. Jacob and Desdemona lived in this house until their deaths, in 1890 and 1891. And one more street lamp is further up Canal Street, at Abby Emily Estey and Levi Knight Fuller's house. Abby Emily was the daughter of Jacob and Desdemona Estey. This house was built and occupied, around 1873, by Levi Knight Fuller and Abby Emily Estey. Old photos, or paintings of this house, show a street lamp in the front. Part 13. Estey Small Parlor Room, Pine Heights. The room to the left of the entrance door may be the room we are looking for, where the small parlor room advertising card seen was painted or inspired. Because if the people shown are indeed members of the Estey family, they would have all connections with this house. The advertising card room would be a perfect match for the room to the left of the entrance door. There would be a fireplace at the right spot. There are at least 2 stories. And the staircase would be also on the right-hand side of the room. Maybe the Estey family members met in the evening, during the Brattleboro celebrations for the 250,000th Estey organ, in 1892, here, at Abby and Levi's house. My interpretation of the advertising card, small parlor room, a social gathering. There is no official assignment of this card to be a room in the Fuller residence, in Brattleboro. Unfortunately, I was unable to find out if the 3 lamps of the room were powered by oil, gas, kerosene, or electricity. We saw that this house already had a gas street lamp. But the table lamp is possibly still an oil or kerosene lamp. The ceiling light could be a gas lamp. Similar models for gas ceiling lights existed between 1850 and 1900. And the railing lamp could be a kerosene or gas lamp. If the advertising card were indeed from around 1892, or later, all 3 lamps could already have been electric, since the first electric light bulb was used in Brattleboro on Main Street, in 1886. All my thoughts about the Estey Small Parlor Room advertising card. So, all Estey family homes in Brattleboro, Vermont, had at least 1 gas street lamp. Part 14. Outro. While searching for the possible locations of the advertising card rooms in Brattleboro, I also discovered the incredibly beautiful countryside around Brattleboro, with its lovingly cared for houses, often decorated with flowers. If you take a look around Brattleboro on Google Street View, you'll have to be careful not to fall in love with this dreamy place on Earth.